Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Detour Live, stage 3 of the Giro. And we're going to rip straight into it because Matt White has got actual job. He's not a professional podcaster, and we don't have a lot of time this morning. As always, I'm joined by Johnny Trevorrow, Scott McGrory, and of course Matty White. We'll obviously kick things off with you, Whitey. What were your thoughts on stage 2?
Yeah, it was probably as quiet as a day you will see on the Giro d'Italia. I think due to the wind, and it was not a technical run in yesterday, and there wasn't much action, which is fine by me. And it was a pretty controlled sort of final, and it was pretty messy sprint as well. But no, for us, we just had to stay out of trouble, and we did a good job in doing that.
Iffy?
Like I say, it was a little bit more of a chaotic finish, as Caleb Ewan predicted, because you're looking at it from GC's point of view. There were no problems, but for the sprinters, there was a lot of roundabouts, and that put a lot of pressure on. Went from fairly wide roads to narrow roads, and they were all over the bloody place. But
well, if you look at the final there, Johnny, the teams who are controlling the final were the GC teams, not even the sprint teams, and it wasn't until really late. I think Garner was taking Bernal second wheel at 1.5k to go, and he was dragging anyone who was trying to come close to him. So a lot of the GC teams did get in the way because they're fresh, they were nervous. We took a little bit of a sit back and sat in a safer place, but it was a pretty chaotic sprint because it was so straightforward until that last kilometre and a half.
What do you with Caleb? I mean, just never seemed to be far enough up. He always just was that 10 or 20 places back, too far back.
Yeah, look, I think traditionally Caleb sometimes does take a stage or two to get going. He's had a quite limited race program this year as well. Obviously missing all of the Australian summer, so I don't know his exact race days, but he'd be at least 10 to 12 race days behind a normal year. And he'll build into it. I don't know. Roger Klug is obviously the man he relies on the heaviest in the final there. And it was quite easy to get lost. And he'll be back maybe today even. But I think today's probably a little bit too, well, depending on what the weather finally dishes up for us, it could be a little bit too hard for the pure sprinters today.
Hey, Whitey, were you surprised that the UCI asked Fernando Gaviria to do an in-race test of the new barrier system? Because it went well, obviously. Lean across the barriers, slid along them, so that, you R&D, make sure you test it while you're in the race. It was perfect, wasn't it?
It did. It just shows that the new barricades are working. And that I dare say there would have been a fair bit of discussion at the dinner table there between his lead-out guy. But if you look at that, Gaviria did go through. He went through the easy way, which was the dangerous way on the barricade. He didn't have to take that option. And look, I feel sorry for his lead-out guy. I would have felt a lot more sorry if he'd put him over the barricades. But it turned out all right in the end. But it was just shows the bike skills, just shows the skills of some of those sprinters to hold it up at that speed, rubbing against the barricade so close to the finish, doesn't it?
They're both Colombian, but they obviously don't speak the same language because there was something missing there for sure.
Got their lefts and their rights mixed up. But he also took his hand off the bars. When you look at it closely, just as he realised he was going to fall onto the barriers, he took his hand off the bars, so he wasn't going to get his hand caught sliding along. So incredible sense of awareness, and then to pop it back up again. So, but
he must have clipped his hand too, because if you actually look after it, he starts shaking the hand. So he must have actually just clipped it as he pulled it off, because he's actually shaking the hand. You see, not of his lead-out man.
Speaking of his hands, he wasn't wearing any gloves. Now, Whitey, that's got to be OH&S. You can't send riders out with no gloves.
Mate, they all have them. They all get given multiple packets of them at the start of the year, mate. I don't get a sprinter not wearing gloves. I don't get that at all. I get maybe his sensation. He likes the feel of wearing no gloves, but it's a dangerous one if you touch down, isn't it? Like the gloves can save you, and no one can race, especially a sprinter, if you've got skinned palms. That's for sure. So it's a personal. I remember, Tom Boonen used to race through Paris-Roubaix with no gloves on. Talk about crazy.
But it's a tough guy, eh?
Yeah, come on, eh?
Hey, what are your thoughts for stage 3? We can see the background looks a bit overcast there, and if you've got wet conditions, I mean that adds obviously a scarier element to the stage.
It does. The descents are very they're quite technical. They come in quite fast succession there, and even though the last climb is not categorized, it's a tough one. It's got a ramp in there above 14%. Might only be for a couple of 100 meters, but the terrain from that last climb to the finish is not straightforward neither. So I see in the total dry, which actually we had a lot of rain last night, and it we may be lucky, but if it is wet at all, that will be a very technical final. One, because everybody is still so fresh. Two, that last climb does provide a very good launching pad for people who are looking at taking the jersey or some time. And it might not be a day that someone wins the Giro, but we've got to be on full alert that Simon gets through and really has an awareness of what his rivals are doing in that final.
It looks like a Peter Sagan day to me.
Yeah, look, 5 years ago you would not have bet against him, but 5 years ago he wasn't riding the Giro either. But I wouldn't even be surprised to see Evenepoel or someone like that launch on that last climb. I would not be surprised to see Evenepoel launch. And look, he was going for a bonus second yesterday, so he's got a clear intent to take the jersey, if not today, tomorrow on the first mountain stage of the race.
Actually, I wanted to ask you about that, Whitey. I found that fascinating. You know, that second sprint for the 3, 2, and 1 time bonuses, to see Ineos leading out Evenepoel and then Garner coming past and rolling him on the other side. It just seemed weird.
It was. Not too often you see an 85-kilogram leader of the race who knows he's going to lose the jersey tomorrow going for 3 seconds. I don't know. There was some confusing mixed messages going on there for that sprint. And I don't know if you noticed that the intermediate sprint for the breakaway, the one at 35 kilometers to go, the guys Viviani and Gaviria and those guys, they sprinted for a Bianchi sign, which was 35k to go, and the intermediate sprint was 300 meters further. So they had to kick-start it again. It was only for third place, but they made a bit of a boo-boo there with that one of those, the last intermediate sprint before.
I noticed that with Caleb and was it Caleb and one of the other sprinters, they definitely weren't going for those, so they won't be. They're not planning to get to Milan, I would say. Yeah,
there's 2 ways to look at it. Some guys go into even Caleb at the Tour de France there. He usually doesn't line up in the intermediate sprints in the first couple of days until he can jag a win, because there's 2 ways to go about chasing the green. It's, you know, you can chase it from day one, but at the end of the day, the priority there for any sprinter is to win a stage. So there's 2 ways you can go that way, and once you've won a stage, then you can afford to waste a little bit more energy going for the intermediate sprints, or you can be committed from day one, and usually those guys are the ones who certainly intend on chasing that jersey all the way to the finish.
We've got a fan talking about that stage, though, before we move on to the next one. We haven't got it for long. What did you think of Groenewegen, his first sprint back?
Yeah, good. I actually, in the car before, I thought, you know, because it was such a it was an easy stage and it was only going to be a fast wind up. For a guy who hasn't raced that much, it probably was going to suit him. So I was quite curious to see how he lined up. And look, he lacks a little bit of race rhythm for a sprinter, but at the end of the day, he shows he's look. They wouldn't have sent him here unless he had good enough condition that he was happy for, and because his original plan was to start in Tour of Hungary, which is next week. And so obviously they could see the numbers. They knew how he was going in training, and they saw that he was at a level that he could be very competitive at the Giro at his first race in 9 months, and he was.
We've got a couple of questions for you from fans before we let you go as well. Ben Jensen says, if this is live, which it is, ask White if he can sign up Sam Bennett or Yo Almeida.
I would love to. I would love to. Sam Bennett, I think Patrick Lefevre is pretty keen on keeping one of the world's best sprinters exactly where he is. And João Almeida, well, we know he's leaving. He's going somewhere else. I've heard a few stories where, but unfortunately he won't be joining us. And look, we've got enough GC guys at the moment at that level. Joel would be looking for sole leadership, I think, wherever he goes. And that's why he's leaving Quickstep, I would think, because Evenepoel, they're going to build a team around him for the next 5 years. And it would be interesting where he ends up, but unfortunately, he won't be with us.
And you've been busy, Whitey, so you haven't seen some of the scuttlebutt going around. But evidently,
I've seen it. I just try not to pay too much attention to it.
Sam Bennett evidently is going back to Bora next year.
Yep.
Now that was
I heard that, and
Lefebvre actually came out and said it.
Yeah, no, that could be true. And I think I saw Elvis yesterday at the start as well.
now before you jump in again, Johnny, we've got another fan question. Whitey, when do you think is the first opportunity to take some time on GC?
Well, whether we take time, we have tomorrow. Well, tomorrow is definitely the first GC showdown. There's no ifs or buts there. It's a really tough final tomorrow. We've had a look at it, and so yeah. Today, if there's gaps, it'll be because people have lost the wheel in the wet, or something's happened. The terrain is not going to sort out any GC gaps today. It'll be more so mistakes or because of the wet. But tomorrow, the weather prediction is for torrential rain and cold, and it is a very, very tough mountain stage. So we are going to see gaps tomorrow. And look, Simon obviously is in good shape. But look, our big picture goal is to try to win the Giro. But if we can take time here or there or win a stage in this first week, yeah, sure, we'll take it. But the priority for us is riding in a conservative way that especially gives Simon as fresh a legs as possible for when it's going to really matter, and that is the tail end of this race.
Scooter?
I've got a very important question for you, Whitey. Biella, where you're starting today, is actually the founding town of Zegna, high-end fashion Italian clothing, and also where Cerruti was also founded a long time ago. And Cerruti, they dressed Michael Douglas in Fatal Attraction, Wall Street, Basic Instinct, I think Tom Hanks in Philadelphia, all these different movies and stuff. Did you get a chance to go shopping?
Did not. I did see a factory outlet store down the road, but due to our COVID restrictions, I did not get a chance to or allowed to go shopping yesterday after the stage there, Scotty.
Missed opportunity.
And last question before I let you go from the fans. Simon Harvey says, Whitey, how's last night's pasta?
Last night's pasta? I actually didn't eat pasta last night. I turned it down.
What?
I had a bit of rabbit and grilled vegetables last night.
You sure it was rabbit?
Well, it could have been chicken, but it was advertised as rabbit.
Very good, mate.
I'll give you a little tidbit here. And I don't know his first name, but when we pulled up to the hotel yesterday, there's a couple of tennis players in the outdoor area as we got our umpteen dozen PCR test for the race. And I don't remember his first name. He's from Melbourne, but I might not pronounce this correctly, but Kokonakis, the tennis player.
Yeah.
Him and another Australian was staying here, and their strength and conditioning coach. And we had a bit of a chat to them yesterday, and I asked them what they were doing at the hotel. And there is actually tennis. It's actually a really nice hotel with tennis courts out back. And they played a tournament last weekend, and they're just in between tournaments staying at this hotel. So we had a bit of a chat to those guys while we were lining up for our PCR test. And it's always good to catch up with some other
Aussies. I take that was going to be. Well, we've lost.
Perfect timing.
We've lost Whitey. He's frozen. But it's been a pleasure having him on, and looks like the Italian Wi-Fi's got him again. So we'll let Whitey go. And we're going to be joined very shortly from Sam Bewley. He's going to look into his crystal ball. We can unpack the stage. And before we do that, let's have a quick word from our great mates at Bike Exchange.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Thanks again to our great mates at Bike Exchange. Now, I thought it'd be a good time to bring in a guy that can look into his crystal ball and give a rider's perspective on what's happening at the Giro, and that is, of course, the man who's famous for the Social Distance podcast. Oh, no, you're there, Bills?
Yeah, speaking of the Social Distance podcast, I put my headphones in and it started playing through my iTunes app. So I was hearing you talk and I was hearing you talk on another podcast at the same time.
Oh, there you go. Hey,
How are you,
gentlemen.
How are you, Iffy, Scooter? Good?
Hey, good, buddy. Good to see you, Bills.
Now, have you had a chance to...
Good, mate.
Have you had a chance to watch much of the Giro, Bills? And what are your thoughts so far?
Well, it's only been 2 days, so I've seen both of them. Yeah, no, yesterday was a pretty crazy sprint, wasn't it? I was watching you before when you had Whitey on, and when Scotty brought up Gaviria bouncing off the barriers there, it was a pretty interesting start to the Giro for UAE. But no, yeah, saw the sprint yesterday, and by the sounds of it, today it's going to be pretty gnarly with the weather.
Now, there was a bit of talk on the coverage about Sagan, and I think Macca and Keenan were like, "Oh, we don't know if they're going to review, some of the argy-bargy." I don't think there was anything in that in the last sort of 4.5 Ks. It just shows how good he is at finding that position in the wheel, and in those sort of sprints, I mean, that's everything, yeah.
Yeah, and Sagan. The thing with Sagan is he does that quite often, but he's so skilled. He's unbelievably skilled as a bike rider, as you guys know, and most people do know. And it's scary for people like me or other people because we aren't quite as skilled. So we kind of get the shits put up us when he's doing that sort of stuff. But yeah, you're right, Jonesy. It just shows how good he is at making his way through the bunch. And over the years, there's been other sprinters, guys like Boonen and stuff, who are just as good at doing the same thing. And I think that stuff happens. It happens quite often in the final 5 or 10K of races, and obviously more TV cameras now and helicopters over the top, so you see a bit more, but it's not uncommon. And I'm sure he probably wasn't the only guy who did something like that in those final couple of Ks. But yeah, he's pretty handy with those sort of things.
Scooter.
That used to be the stock standard back in the day, didn't it? It was like Kieran racing on the track. It was whoever crossed the line and didn't crash ended up winning the race. UCI have obviously tried to clean things up a little bit, but it's a tough one to try and judge on, Jonesy. Back to your point on whether he should be penalised or whatever. Because he's got the skills, I don't think he should be penalised. And of course, he's made contact, he's made room. It wasn't that dangerous, like you can, and we know it. You're in a bunch, you can bump someone into the shoulder, put a bit of pressure on them. It's not that dangerous. It looks far worse than it is often. But if you do it at the wrong time, they might hit the wheel in front of them and go over the wheel and then causes a crash. So, yeah, sure, then they have to get penalised if there's a crash. But I think that sort of stuff that Peter did yesterday looked worse than it really is. And I'd hate to see guys that have those sorts of skills or race nous, get sanitised too much. I think we've gone down that path anyway, the whole super tuck thing and, taking that out of racing, all those sorts of things. It's just over-sanitising the sport to a lot of degree.
Now, we haven't spoken much about the actual stage winner himself, Tim Merlier. Bills, what do you know about this bloke?
Mate, he's quick. He's won a lot of races, actually. When I saw the start list and I looked at the sprinters for this race and I saw him and I thought this is going to be his first real test, I suppose, in a World Tour race, in a big World Tour race, in a Grand Tour, and up against Caleb and Groenewegen and Viviani and Sagan and these world-renowned fastest guys. And I was intrigued to see how he was going to go because he has won a lot in Belgium in the last 12 months. He's won almost, every time he lines up in those Belgian races, he almost wins them all. He is obviously super, super quick, and obviously first stage he showed them all a clean set of wheels. So obviously we saw in the final there that Caleb was pretty far back. He didn't get a very clean run into the finish and put him in a position where he wasn't even able to contest it effectively. So it'll be interesting to see in another day down the line when Caleb does get a good run, how he lines up against him. But yeah, clearly a very quick guy.
What impressed me with him, Bjorns, was that he hit out. It was even just before 250. It was, he didn't hesitate. Whereas I thought Viviani probably blew his chances by hesitating, but Tim just went, 270, I reckon it was, and they didn't look like getting by him.
No, and I think he's probably used to. He's obviously super quick himself, but and he has had a lot of opportunities to win races, which he has done, like I say. But he's also had races where he's had to lead out guys like Van der Poel, for example. So he's obviously pretty conditioned to doing long sprints as well, and that's what he did yesterday, I feel like you say, and he just didn't slow down. He got quicker and quicker and quicker, and those two guys behind him, Nizzolo and Groenewegen there, they couldn't even come off the wheel. They tried, and they just went straight back onto it. So he can clearly do a long sprint and clearly do a fast sprint. So I think he's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a one-off, I don't think. I'm sure the sprinters will be taking him pretty seriously for all the other sprint stages coming up.
Bills, he's 28, and this season's been fantastic. And okay, he's riding for a pro Conti team. They're getting a lot of starts because of Matthew Van der Poel in that team. But the team itself behind him, it's kind of like Bora. When they first sort of kicked off, it was Sagan winning everything, and the rest of the team didn't do much. But Alpecin, Phoenix, and now they've got riders that are winning races that are not just for Matthew, and some riders that are there to help Matthew right down towards the end as well. At 28, why is it taking him this long? Do you know any background as to why he wasn't, the speed he's showing? He must have been that quick at 23, 24, 25 as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. And typically as a sprinter, you're faster when you're younger, aren't you? So I don't know. I don't know his background. No, I've only seen his name pop up in the last couple of years. I don't know whether he came from another discipline or I don't know actually anything about him. But you're right. Yeah, 28 years old. I didn't know he was even that old. I thought he must have been a young guy. And yeah, often these sprinters are winning when they're 22, 23, and they get a little bit slower as they get older. So yeah, I don't know, but he's left his run late, I suppose, but he's doing all right.
He won the Belgian national road title just in 2019, but evidently I only know this guy. I Googled him. He has got a background in cross, so it's like 3 or 4 years in cross.
Well, there you go. That answers it. Yeah. Hey, Bills, how much harder is modern day cycling for these sprint trains, given that the GC teams are so powerful and blocking up the traditional lineouts with sort of 3-4K to go?
Yeah, it's tricky. Like I think it can. I know there's always been an argument of the GC guys. Like it would be nice if the GC teams got out of the way at a certain point in the finish there. And I guess that's why they brought in the 3 kilometer rule, where if there's a crash after 3 kilometers, you get bunch time, so that the GC teams maybe would disappear a little bit. And I think for some races they bring it back to even 5K. But on the flip side, I think it can favour sprint trains a lot also, because if you get like the big long straight run-ins, big wide roads like you often get, say, in the Tour de France, more so than the Giro or the Vuelta. The sprint teams can actually utilise those GC teams to take them closer and closer to the finish line, and then they get the whole train inside the last 3K. I think yesterday probably wasn't a day for that. You probably wanted to be at the front a little bit earlier with that tricky finish. But what was the question again, actually?
How much harder is it for these sprint trains in modern day cycling with all the GC
you answered
teams?
It, Bills. You answered it perfectly.
Yeah. What do you mean harder? Right.
Well, they are because they're always bopping around at the front. Like they weren't really doing that as much sort of 5-6 years ago. Yeah, it was a crap question. Let's move on.
I think to answer your question, it's good for the sprint teams. Yeah. It's good for the sprint teams up until a certain point, because they can save their guys till later in the finish, in the final few K. And then once you flick to like 3-4K to go, then I'm pretty sure the sprint teams like to have the GC guys out of the way. But like we saw with Sagan yesterday, if they want them out of the way, they can get them out of the way.
Well, on that, Bills. So Caleb comes in as, well, I shouldn't say the standout sprinter, but obviously one of the favourites, and with the team that really is designated to him to go for stage wins. Yet they were a bit of a mess at the end. What's your take on them? Is it too early? Are they just trying to get their system right? Was it just too tricky a finish? Did they go too early? Or is everybody going to keep looking to Lotto as soon as whenever it's going to be a flat finish? Is that going to be a challenge for them?
I think what's tricky in yesterday's final was they were all together, and that's obviously how you need to be when you're doing a lead out. You want to be in the line, but when it gets really technical or narrow, like it did in the final 3 or 4K yesterday, it's actually quite hard to get a whole team through to the front at the same time. So often in those situations, it's better to pair off or to sort of do your own thing and just basically plan to meet at the front at a certain point. I don't know what their plan was, obviously, but you might say, let's look at 3K, we're all meeting at the front, and you've got to find your own way there, because it is easy to get through by yourself or with only one other guy. If you try to get through with 6 or 7 guys, there's often not enough room, and that was the case yesterday. And they were all together and they looked pretty good up until about 5K to go, and then at that point it started to look, you're a bit too far back, and then the road narrowed, the road got tricky, and there was just no space for them to come as a group. So I think yesterday would have been better, not being a sprinter myself, but probably better to be at the front a little bit earlier, like some of those other teams were, or maybe just to try to find a way through. And that's one thing that you take your hat off to Caleb. He has so much faith in his lead-out guys and so much faith in his team that he doesn't leave their wheel. And sometimes he ends up in situations like he did yesterday because they can't get through. But if he does, when they do get through, he knows they're going to deliver him, and 9 times out of 10 he wins once in that position.
Well, the other problem is Roger Klug is such a big guy. I mean, that's an intimidating guy to rip a new one if he doesn't do a good job. I'd be too scared.
He's like twice the height of Caleb.
He's going pretty strong though, Roger Klug. But look, I think they were just too far back. That's all it was. I thought Roger, there was an opportunity for him to dive through, but maybe Caleb wasn't quite on the wheel or something around about just coming up to the 1K. But anyway,
it's a funny situation because obviously the Lotto train and the Lotto team would have reconned or seen that finish and known it like the back of their hand, and they would have known exactly where they needed to be. They would have known that at 3K to go, you can't be as far back as they were. So it's easy to say like, oh, why don't they just be in a better position? Well, every other sprint team is trying to do the same thing, and there's only so much room for so many guys. And when you've got twice as many guys trying to fit into an area where you can only get half those people, it's not quite as easy as it sounds. But ultimately, that's what they needed to do.
It's something that's really changed, isn't it? If you go way back to, like I guess the Sayako train with Mario Cipollini, everybody thought, well, okay, they were the strongest lead-out team. Let's all fight for position behind Mario's wheel because they're the best lead-out train. And it's such a difference now. It's every team has got someone that has to get to the front, do the job, and you've got these 4 or 5 trains often coming down. The finishing straight with the GC guys as well. So certainly an evolution of the sprinter stages, for sure.
I thought Cofidis did a good job. We were debating them last night, but they actually ended up doing quite a good lead out.
And they were well predicted by Whitey at the start that they were going to be right up there as well. Now, one thing we wanted to bring you on for, Bills, is you've got a knack for looking into your crystal ball and predicting winners, and also getting your light settings right for an interview. What do you think of when you see the stage today, knowing that it's going to be wet?
Yeah, this is going to be a real Giro stage, isn't it? I mean, like you look at it on paper and you think, it's not so bad. But then that's from looking at the profile. But when you look at the map, it's really tricky. It's small roads, it's super twisty. It's all through the vineyards there. So as most places around the world, vineyard areas have pretty small roads. So very tricky. And then obviously, like you say, Jones, it's wet. So that brings a whole new stress. You're only 3 days into the Giro, and GC guides are all sort of there or thereabouts together. And they don't want to be risking losing even a handful of seconds, or they don't want to be caught up in crashes or crashing themselves. So it brings a whole new stress in. And then you get the guys that can win the stage also, them and their teams up there bopping around. So yeah, it's going to be very, very stressful stage. I think it's going to be pretty action-packed in the final 30K there. And it will be interesting to see how it plays out.
If you were the DS for Bike Exchange, would you tell them to rip it, make it hard, and drop the sprinters? Or actually, there'd be no point in doing that. If you had if you had Sagan on your team, you would. Yeah, so mate, I'm not on today.
The only reason the team would be wanting to drop the sprinters is if they want to line up the stage. But I think that ultimately the goal for Team Bike Exchange today is getting Simon through as safely as possible, and that's going to mean that some guys are going to have to use energy. You know, guys like Hippie and those sort of guys. They're going to be on the tools today pretty heavily to make sure Simon is in good position, and they're going to have to use some energy to do that, which is why they're there. But ultimately, the goal is just to get Simon through safely and to get through a stage like this safely. I mean, those climbs are no problem for Simon, and so you just need to get through safely, and that means right in the front. So it's going to be, and that's what brings stress, because every other GC team is thinking the same.
So do you reckon Sagan? To me, it looks like a Sagan day today. Do you reckon that Bora and Sagan and blokes like Ulisse would be really trying to put the pressure, especially at that last little climb, to get rid of the Calebs and Groenewegans? Yeah,
I think so. I mean, if this stage was 3 or 4 years ago, you'd almost wouldn't do it. You just give Sagan the victory, wouldn't you? But you know, these days there's a few other guys that can probably challenge him today. But I think it is a stage that sees Peter Sagan all over it. I also read an article not long ago. When I say not long ago, I just mean about 5 minutes ago, about Alberto Bettiol. He wants to have a crack today. Italian guy in good form. He wants to take the leader's jersey. So, you know, they're going to have teams like Bora, EF. They will be trying to make it hard to get rid of the sprinters. And I think, given the nature of the roads themselves, really twisty, dangerous, narrow descents, all you have to do is ride sort of hard the last half of a climb, ride the descent fast, ride hard the bottom half of the next climb, and the sprinters are effectively gone. So that'll be what they'll do for sure.
What about another New Zealander in Paddy Bevan?
I did think about Paddy. Yeah, and the way he was riding in Romandy, he was getting to the finish of much harder stages than this. So I was having a look through the start list just before I came on here, and actually I saw Paddy's name, and I think a very good stage for Paddy. A very good stage for Paddy. Obviously, yeah, Sagan is probably the favourite and guys like that, but I think for sure Paddy has a chance to be out there, and he's in red hot form at the moment. So I hope so. I'd love to see that.
Well, did you hear what actually happened to Paddy in the prologue? I thought he would be right in the mix with his current form, but he was well down in the prologue. I reckon something must have happened to him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's the first stage of the Giro, and everyone's going pretty quick. I think they don't necessarily have the fastest equipment either, that team. You know, if you see the top 10, it was basically Jumbo and Quickstep, and you know, both those teams have pretty fast bikes, and I think the bikes that they're riding aren't the fastest time trial bikes, but who knows? Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. It could come down to going around the corners a bit too slow, and you know, and when it's only a 9-minute effort, if you give away 2 seconds on every corner, all of a sudden you've lost 15 places. So I don't know. I haven't spoken to Paddy about it, but yeah, I agree with you. I was sort of picking him as a top five contender.
Paddy, I was going to say, Pat was, because he won the National Road Series here in Australia before he went on to be a pro, and you know, this Giro stage tomorrow looks like it might be, you know, at least as difficult as some of the NRS races here in Australia. So he should be right up for it.
Yeah.
Hey, Bills, you were saying obviously the wet stages add that element of stress. How do you go on a Grand Tour when it is wet and you are going down these descents at these ridiculous speeds? I mean, can you literally feel your heart rate go, or is it one of those things where you can't overthink it?
Yeah, you don't overthink it. It's like doing a bunch sprint at the same time. Like you literally do switch off, or you compartmentalize. Is that the right word? What you're doing, and you do. If people talk about tunnel vision, and that's effectively what happens. Like when we're going down those wet descents, like half the time, when you're going slow, or when you're like midway through a stage, or the descents have no real effect on the race, is when you start thinking about it, and that's when you go down the descents a bit more cautiously. But when you're racing, you literally you're not thinking about it, and that's probably why we crash. But you get tunnel vision, and you get adrenaline, and all you start thinking about is I need to be here, I need to be here, I need to be here, and that's what happens in bunch sprints. That's what happens on wet descents. That's what happens on fast descents, especially when you're racing in the final, which will be the case today.
How'd you go, Iffy, back in the day?
Just ducking and weaving, mate.
Johnny was one of the more skillful riders.
I never used to wear mitts. I didn't like wearing mitts, but then I didn't fall off either. I used to knock them down. I didn't fall off myself.
Oh, you're just a bloody superstar, mate. Hey, this Bills, what's your take on Evenepoel? Like, he was up there contesting for the intermediate sprints. A lot of the traditional GC riders about conserving your energy and so forth. Looks like he's just going to absolutely try and rip this Giro.
Oh, I didn't see that. I only saw the last 9K yesterday, so I didn't realise that. But maybe he's close to the jersey, isn't he? So he probably knows that that either him or Joe Almeida will be the first. Will probably be the next guys in line to take the leader's jersey, which will be either today or tomorrow. Once because there's only Ghana and Affini in front of them, which will be they're going to lose time. Maybe not today, but certainly tomorrow. So the next in line for the pink jersey is Evenepoel or Almeida, and at the moment it's Almeida. So maybe Remco wants to get a couple of seconds.
Well, they're even on time now because of the 2 seconds that Evenepoel got. But so Quickstep let him out, and then Ghana rolled him for the sprint. So Garner got the 3 seconds. Evenepoel got the 2 seconds.
Well, that would have been, I suppose, Garner's protecting Bernal there, I suppose.
Yeah,
taking some seconds off Evenepoel so that he doesn't get further in front of Bernal.
Exactly what he said. Yep.
So, who's your predictions for the stage, Bills? Who do you reckon is going to win?
Oh, I think Sagan is probably the logical pick, but it's more fun to go someone else. I'll go. I reckon. I think I'll narrow it down to a few guys. I think he's obviously Sagan. I think Bettiol, just because he hasn't been in great form. He hasn't had a victory for a while, but he is in good form here. He ran 12th in the prologue. He's pretty motivated. He's Italian. He's on home roads. I think he'll be up there. And then I reckon you go down. Then you go into the faster GC guys, and I think guys like Almeida or Evenepoel. So those 4 guys will be there or thereabouts.
Have you spoken to George Bennett? You chatting to him every morning just to make sure his head's right?
I'm going to avoid that guy until he wins it. So if it's not this year, it'll be a long
time between drinks. Anything else you want to add, boys, before we wrap things up?
Well, I haven't spoken to, like, you talk to Bills all the time. You've got your own little private podcast, you guys, but
we're also friends, Iffy.
Yeah.
We're all good friends. No, I'm just curious to know how your season's going and what's the plans for you event-wise coming up.
I leave today, actually, in a few hours to Tour of Hungary. So obviously it's been a pretty slow start to the season for me coming back from the injury. Was long, just got longer and longer as it went on, that injury. And so I haven't done a lot of racing. And what racing I have done hasn't been of great success. Having so much time out of the sport and so much time off the bike in the last 12 months. But training hard and I've only been back on the bike for 2.5 months after having 6 months off it. So just about chipping away at the moment and, just slowly trying to get better and better as I do. And I go to Tour of Hungary today, which will be a great race, good opportunity to ride through and find some form. And also we've got a couple of opportunities there with some sprint stages with Caden Groves and then Damien Housen for the overall. So looking forward to there and getting 5 days of racing in and hopefully with some success for the team.
So who is the team Bike Exchange squad? You named 3 of them. What's the whole team for Hungary?
Then there's us 3, and then there's Barnabas, the young Hungarian dude in our team, Alexander Konachev, another young guy, and Kevin Colleoni, who's a first year with us, young Italian climber. So he'll be there to support Damo in the hilly stage.
Bills, did you in that the time off the road bike, out on the roads, I guess, on the home trainer? doing lots of that stuff? Is that something you don't mind doing, or is it a chore?
It's a chore, yeah, for sure. But it's necessary, a necessary chore. But I did a lot of stuff off the bike actually. I tried to do, basically my goal for those months off the bike was to do 20-hour weeks, 20-hour weeks of exercise. So I was trying to do half of that on the bike and half of that either running or hiking or in the gym and things like that. And I did some bigger weeks. I even did a couple of 7-hour days, which I split up into 5 different sessions, which were quite fun actually. So I'd do like a couple of hours on the bike and then a 3-hour hike and then back another couple of hours on the bike and then an evening run or something like that. So I was doing as much as I could and doing as best as I could. But ultimately, when you're not on the road, it's not quite the same. And when I did start on the road, I was actually really happy with how I was going, and I still am happy with how I'm going. I switched across to the cross training across to the bike pretty easily and pretty quickly, and I felt fit and I felt strong. I'm just lacking the race intensity, so that's just what's taking its time to come back. And like I say, hopefully these 5 days at Tour of Hungary will go a long way into switching into that gear.
How many races does it normally take, Bewls, to feel like you are getting a lot of that form sort of back in your legs?
I think typically after an off season, I can, if I do the Australian summer, or typically I would do Cadel Evans and the Sun Tour, Jayco Hero Sun Tour, and then after those races, you already hit Europe pretty race ready. So yeah, 10 days or something like that. But that's only with having 2.5 months off racing, whereas I've had near on 10 months off it, not to mention the lockdown before that. So it's been a long 12 months of not a lot of racing and a lot of time off the road. So it's taken a little bit longer, but hopefully by the end of Tour of Hungary, I'll be heading in the right direction because I have been training well. Just need to find that race rhythm again.
We've got a fan question. John Stevens says, yesterday you proposed the adoption of a salary cap with teams, riders, sponsors and owners based in numerous different countries. It would be almost impossible to police. What do you think of the idea of a salary cap, Bewls? Having the team go, nah, mate, we have to trim you 30% to fit you in.
I like the salary cap idea. I think I did watch the show yesterday, and what Whitey said made good points about the North American sports and stuff. I think there's things that need to happen before a salary cap would work. I.e., we need to have a bite of the cookie when it comes to TV rights and things like that, to try to bump the budgets up a bit, try to even the budgets out a little bit. So there's certain things that would need to happen before a salary cap could even be talked about. And as it seems, that's not going to be easy to get a bite of that cookie. So yeah, it's a long road to the salary cap, I think.
And we've got another great fan comment here. That's from Wendy Superfan. My internet's playing up. Keep losing you.
Hey,
I don't know what you want us to do there, Wendy.
G'day, Wendy. We love you.
Hey, to John's point, that is the biggest hurdle around the salary cap. That's clear. Every team registered in different countries, different tax regulations. It would be the big challenge. I think you need all the teams to then register through some other entity, perhaps in Switzerland or whatever, or through the ECI some other way. But I think there'd be so many ways around a salary cap because of the different countries. So
can't they? I don't understand, because can't they just say, okay, all right, the salary cap's 15 million euro for all the teams. What difference does it make if you register
brown
in whatever
paper bags, mate? Brown paper bags.
Yeah.
So
That's
if you're Egan Bernal, they could say that, we're paying him in the UK. Here's his contract. Here it is, proof. This is the tax he's paying in the UK, and it's a million euros.
Mm.
But then they're also then paying directly to another company in Colombia another million to keep him on board. So you need to be through one, like that's where the American system works. And any of those, whether it's AFL in Australia or whatever, you're dealing with one country, one set of laws, one tax agency, so everything can be proven. So each rider, or every sports person has
but even in the States,
tax returns every year for everything he's earning, and then they can trace where it's coming from.
But then even in the States, the tax regulations are completely different based on what state you live in. I guess it would be like, but also that teams operate maybe not the same currencies, potentially. Like maybe Ineos's budget's in pounds, maybe EF's in US dollars. I don't know.
What about the cycling honesty system?
Should we get an accountant on here?
That's worked really well so far.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Is there anything else we want to add before we wrap things up, boys?
I'll throw in Diego Ulysses for the stage as well. It's not a hilly finish, but he should be in the mix. He was prominent last year, several stages. Hasn't had great form this year, but he's run 5th and 6th coming up to it in Tour of Romandy. Hey, he's Italian. He loves it. He's won here before. He's another one.
All right. Well, it's going to be riveting television, to say the least. Thanks again, Bills, for coming on. Scotty, Iffy, as we always say, if you want to get involved with the show, youtube.com/the Detour podcast. Make sure you subscribe. And then, Scotty?
One more thing. I mentioned Cerruti as the fashion label, right? For the start of founded at the start of this stage. Richard Gere in Pretty Woman is another movie, another actor that they supply clothes to. There you go. A bit of useless trivia for you to finish the show.
What a way to finish.
Right. I'll tell you what I really liked when Tim won the stage last night. The fact that he did that big W as a tribute to Walter Wayland's, who's 10 years. There we go.
Yeah.
Since,
that's crazy.
He died tragically in the Giro. And they also did a beautiful tribute to him at the start line as well, so which I thought was pretty special.
Yep. Definitely. All right. Well, that's a wrap of another big show. We'll be back again tomorrow to recap. Hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes well for Team Bike Exchange, George Bennett, and your tips get up. Peter Sagan, Ulysses, and who'd you say, Bills?
I said 4 people.
Oh, yeah.
So.
You hedged your bets.
Well, I actually said Sagan.
Diversify, mate. Diversify.
Ulysses right at the start. But I still won't completely count out Caleb because, if they don't get it quite right, the attacking's, Caleb gets over a hill pretty well, and he'll be angry. So he's still in with a chance.
Okay.
Well, he attacked on the Poggio this year, so
yeah, he was brilliant.
He was very good, wasn't he? I mentioned the winner of this stage yesterday, actually.
Who's that?
I'll tell you tomorrow.
All right. Fourth attempt to wrap the show up. This one's final. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you again tomorrow.
See you guys.
there you go.